What is going on, guys? Ultimate Deadpool here, finally back with a new video. This is another, I guess you could say, props or figure review. So without further ado, we've got three guys in front of us right now, all three of which are brand new. And let's go ahead and get started with the, I guess, least preferred character out of these three. Alright, so now we have, or first off, we've got the Neca Corporation's Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas, one of my all-time favorite Halloween movies, and one of the only musicals I actually do enjoy. Now, Jack comes with a shit ton of stuff, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get all of his accessories laid out and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Okay, here we have all of the bits and pieces that come with Jack Skellington. Now, for starters, he has 8 different heads. That's ridiculous, but it also makes me make this guy feel more authentic. Because for those of you who might not know, by now, the Nightmare Before Christmas was stop motion animated. So they probably had thousands of Jack Skellington heads that had different expressions, and this kind of makes me have that same feel to it. Some heads kind of look the same as others. Others just have simple eye twists and movements and whatever. So, very expressive. You can make Jack do just about anything you want from Nightmare Before Christmas, the movie. So, let's go ahead and start off with his display base thing. It's a piece of clear plastic, relatively not cheap feeling, but it's got 2 little peg posts, and when you put his feet on those peg posts, he stands, I guess, but in a very funky position because the posts are so close together. I would have preferred if they had it to where, maybe his feet stood right about here or something, but they did not do that. They decided to have his feet very close together, which makes him a pain in the neck to stand, but it can be done. Next up, we have obviously Zero. Now, Zero, I'm going to count as more of an actual figure rather than an accessory, because he plugs into this ball joint on the bottom of this clear stand, and Zero actually does have some articulation as well, even if he is just a ghost dog. He's got a full array of hands, matching gestures for both sides. Some people don't like it when when a company like NECA or Hot Toys or whatever, they don't give them pairs. With this guy, you get pairs of every hand. So you have two pointing fingers or relaxed-ish pointing fingers for both sides. You have 2, I guess you could call these like Sandy Claus hands, because I know there is a version of this figure that is having him dressed up as Sandy Claus, because that's how he pronounced it. 2 more, I guess, gripping style hands, and then obviously 2 pointing gestures as well. Now, this wouldn't be a Nightmare Before Christmas if they didn't come with at least one Halloween Town present. This is obviously a Jack-in-the-Box with some really cool Tim Burton style artwork on it. I wish this was able to actually compress, but it doesn't. This is on just a simple, actually I think it just simply pops on a peg port inside the box. So if you did want to, you could always take this off and just kind of rotate the pumpkin. I don't think the pumpkin is actually supposed to move. I think it's just supposed to do that on that little peg inside the box. So I wouldn't mess with that. This actually does rotate, so that's fun. He does also come with his little notepad that shows him as the Pumpkin King. Then I believe the Santa Claus version of Jack Skellington has the opposite page that he drew to make it look to do his Santa Claus suit, and it also has a wire and stuff on the back just to complete the look. It actually does feel really nice, and definitely does look convincing in terms of what it looked like in the movies. Now, with Jack being the Pumpkin King, he does come with pumpkins. So, no, you can't actually install these as alternative heads or whatever. These are more like set dressing pieces or whatnot, but still very nice. You do see pumpkins just like this, obviously in the Nightmare Before Christmas. But all in all, not a bad choice. So let's go ahead and put everything back together and bring Jack Skellington out here and review him. Alright, so no crazy poses, no accessories, no nothing in Jack's hands, no bullshit. Oh, and ignore the stuff behind the set right now. I'm currently trying to get everything situated, so just bear with me. This is a hell of a lot better than the previous Jack Skellington that I had. I don't even have that one anymore because the paint on his arms faded, like completely. Like all of the line work and everything else, it just completely faded into nothing. And it was just bare, unpainted white plastic underneath the original Jack Skellington that I had, that I believe was done by Diamond Select. I could be misremembering that. Terrible. I did not have a good time with that figure. The proportions were all out of whack. Granted, these are as well, but that's how he's supposed to look like. But even on the Diamond Select one, if I'm remembering correctly, that one looked terrible. I don't even remember why I grabbed that one. I think it was because at that time it was the only Jack Skellington that they had at that time, and I love Jack Skellington as a character. But this tops it immediately. I'm not even gonna BS about it. Not gonna beat around the bush. This version of Jack Skellington by the Neca Corporation destroys the original Diamond Select one that I had way back when. He comes with more stuff. He is way more posable than that Diamond Select one ever could be, and he comes with zero. How do you have a Jack Skellington that does not come with his dog? So, and the dog is posable. So, anyway, rant over. So, like I said, this guy can actually do some really fun poses. He comes with several different accessories, 8 heads in total, and at least 8 other hands. 8 sets of hands, or I guess you could say 4 pairs of hands, but 8 gestures in total. And they're all matching from one side to the left, or right side to left. The only thing that on this figure that I do not like is the display base, or his stand, for a lack of a better term. His legs are long, and they're also slightly bent, so that way he can, get all kinds of other funky poses or whatever for, articulation and whatnot, so he can do all those crazy poses that you could see him do in the movie. Granted, his legs only go up to a certain amount, but we'll get to that later. His feet are way too close together. They should have had it to where he stands about like this. That looks more natural rather than him standing like this. Minor nitpick, something I could easily fix later, but, it is what it is. The suit. Most companies that try to do especially like aftermarket stuff, or third-party companies, they cannot get Jack's suit done the right way. These guys, they nailed it. The stripes and everything are all funky angles and janky and everything else. That's how it's supposed to be. It is not a clean suit. His arms are also his hands stop way past his knees, as it's supposed to be. This is a tall, very lanky, skeleton. And going off of Tim Burton's original designs, this is how Jack Skellington is supposed to look. Some people, or some, companies and whatever who do third-party brands, they make him, regular action figure sized. At least some of the ones that I've saw. And they give him, more realistic proportions. They give him realistic legs. They give him realistic arms, realistic heads, realistic torsos, blah, 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 blah. They make it look more realistic. But it's a cartoon. And even then, it was a claymation model about this size. So technically, if you want to get really technical, this could classify as a 1-to-1 scale Jack Skellington. No, maybe the original one was slightly taller than this, but not by much. This is roughly how the actual puppet for the movie, that's roughly how tall it was. It wasn't a very big prop because they needed to make sure that it was posable, but small enough to fit on camera and all that kind of fun stuff. Watch a documentary, it'll explain everything way better than I can. Now his head. Looks like Jack Skellington, not that hard to do. It's literally just a circle with skeleton eye holes, a nose, and teeth. That's it. No big deal. His bow tie, believe it or not, third-party companies do actually get his bow tie wrong. Some people do a spider, other people do a straight-up bat, but with no texture on it. His actual one looks just like this. It's got a bat symbol, or like a bat head on the front of it, and then his suit matches the rest of the bow tie. And it's the same, should be the same thing like that on both sides, but, you know, for what they could do, that's not going to bother me at all. His, I guess you could say, tailcoat bits are actually supposed to be shredded and tattered like this because it's, again, not a clean suit. Because it's not at all perfectly tailored. It's thrown together and probably good Lord knows what's floating around Halloween Town. It works for me. So, let's go ahead and go on to articulation. Zero actually does have articulation. He's not just a standard little, very light, flexible, slightly PVC style plastic that connects on a clear ball joint on his stand. That ball joint actually does give you a little bit of articulation, plus there is some in his head as well. So you would think that this would just sit there as some set dressing or whatever, or be a companion piece to Jack, but no. He actually does swivel and all over the frickin' ball joint, so you can get him to go all kinds of crazy directions if you really want to. But his head is also on a ball joint, and it does move around just enough to where you could have him look at Jack or, whatever, tilt his head and whatever side to side. You can get some crazy poses out with, or, limited but still nice poses done with Zero. Jack, on the other hand, compared to the Diamond Select one, he's way more this one is way more posable. So he actually does have some neck movement. I don't know if how well that's coming across on right there. So he does have neck movement, but the neck is actually a ball joint. So you can actually get, full rotations and whatever with his neck very well. That on the Diamond Select one, you couldn't get near this high with his arms. The maximum that one could do was like right here. But with this guy, you can pull his arms up relatively high, no problem. That's right there is when it maxes out. Single bend at the elbow. I understand that they wanted to have as few joints as possible, but still making it look relatively simple. I get it. And then for his wrist, it just pegs in so you can actually rotate it, and then there's actually a hinge on all of the hands that make him be able to do crazy singing style poses. So like right there, you can have him look like he's saying what's this or whatever. I'm so sorry, I had to do that at least once. But and then he's got a ball joint, I believe, or a double ball joint up in his midsection, so you get a little bit of rotation and pivot to get a couple of different more dynamic poses. If you really want to do that, it also rotates all the way around. Now his legs up at the hips are going to be the most restricted part, simply because there's only so much you can do for a lanky, tall, skeleton-like thing like Jack Skellington. So his legs go up to about there before it really starts to bunch and everything else in between up here. I'm worried that eventually, if you leave him, or if you put if I would try to raise the leg too much higher, that seam where his hip bones would be, or pelvis would be, is just going to come apart. So I'd say right about there is probably the maximum you could get. Still, way further than that Diamond Select one ever could. Double bend or single bend at his knee. That does also incorporate a swivel. And then, believe it or not, his feet actually are articulated as well. They just move up and down just a little bit and side to side for more dynamic posing as well. So you can get Jack Skellington to go do some crazy frickin', you know, splendidly little gestures and whatnot. He can do those poses, but as you can see, it will stretch out that rubber just a little bit because it's more of like a softish rubber plastic. Very fine. It should be fine to do it. Some people freak out when they can't pose their stuff, and I understand that. You know, you want your stuff to last. You don't want to break it, especially not just simply as posing it. But like I said, I love Jack Skellington. I love Jack Skellington. He's one of my favorite characters in all of Disney. Really glad to actually have a proper scaled, I guess you could say, figure in my collection of stuff. But because the Diamond Select one was a lot shorter than this, and he could not pose worth a shit. So, enough about Jack Skellington. Let's move on to Leonardo. And here we have all of the accessories that come with the Last Ronin Leonardo. Starting off with his head, or heads, both of which look really good. This one has a really funny but slightly goofy expression on it. I get it, he's exhausted at this point. And then another one that's a little bit more ticked off, for lack of a better term. Both pop on just a simple ball joint. Both have rotatable bandanas on both of them, obviously. Then his swords, obviously you gotta have those. It's Leonardo. Then 5, I believe these are called kunai. I can't remember what they're actually called, so let me know down in the comments what they actually are. And then, again, full array hands, pairs for everything. So, 2 signal hands or chopping hands, one of the two. 2 gripping hands, 2, I guess, exaggerated gripping hands, and 2 closed fists already installed of him right out of the box. What we're going to do now is go ahead and put everything back together and bring Leonardo himself out here. Alright, now we got Leonardo standing straight up and down, no crazy poses or accessories. He is wearing all of his accessories though. That's not a lie, actually. That's not true, actually. Just to complete the look, he's got his kunais in his belt on both sides, and then his swords on his back. Everything else, nothing. Wow. Where do I begin? Type wow. This is really good. Like some of you guys might not know this, Leonardo is my favorite Ninja Turtle out of all of them, aside from Slash. We'll get to that in another time. But as far as the main 4 turtles, Leonardo is my favorite Ninja Turtle. I don't know why. He always has been. So when I first heard that Neca was going to be making a Last Ronin Leonardo, okay, well, how do you do that? Well, sure enough, they did it really, really well. It's a completely different body compared to what Raphael has had, and what the other Last Ronin turtles have had. Now, granted, I don't have all of the Last Ronin turtles yet. I am working on that, but one thing at a time. So, the overall look of him looks exactly how he looked like in the Last Ronin, at least in terms of the flashbacks. He's got the wrappings on his arms look really, really good. And I believe this guy was actually announced just after or just before the Mummy version of Michelangelo. But either way, the wrappings do look really good. The armor on his forearm is a separate piece, but it's really not supposed to go anywhere. I think it's just glued in place. His, I guess, knuckle armor or hand armor, or whatever you want to call this strap, is present on all of the hands that you get on both sides. Again, it's all molded and sculpted in there, not supposed to go anywhere. I believe that is the, I think it's the Hamato Yoshi logo. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read The Last Ronin. Then he's got this similar chest armor that Raphael had, along with a hockey style looking, I guess you could say, hip guard. I'm not good and fluid in sports. His pants look really nice. He's got like a tattered cape looking thing on his back and along with his hood. Now this is technically removable. You just have to break the seam from where it's glued up here. Then you can always pop this off. There is some sculpt work underneath his head. You can obviously see his neck and everything else, but this also does help hold his swords in place. There are also two clips or sheaths or whatever on his back as well to help hold the swords in place. But in continuity wise, this would be doing all the heavy lifting. Those are just there for more secure fit. His belt looks really cool. It does actually have some more hockey Casey Jones inspired belt stuff, which makes sense because in the last Ronin comic book, Leonardo and Casey Jones did unfortunately both pass die together in a very brutal and badass way, I might add, via getting exploded, if I remember correctly. But it would make sense that Leo and Casey Jones would have similar looks because A, they teamed up together, and B, all of the Ninja Turtles gear is homemade, so just like Casey Jones, they would use whatever they had lying around in a sewer. So that makes sense to me on why he looks like this. Some people wanted a fully armored version of Leonardo and stuff like that for the Turtles for the last Ronin series. Why? They're not meant to be armored. They're meant to have stuff that they have lying around their sewer, and that's what, where they get that stuff. The only reason they have weapons and stuff is because for some reason Splinter just found them in the sewers. Ignore the reasons and logic behind it. Anyway, his feet also look really good for not being anywhere near sounding creepy. That's probably the first time I've ever said that sentence and probably the last time I'll say it. But anyway, his feet have the wrappings and stuff just like his arms and gauntlets do. Very reminiscent to the Michelangelo mummy look. And you'll see when he gets to articulation, he can actually do poses. It is a little bit more limited because of how bulky his body is, but he still can move relatively well, just like Raphael could when I reviewed the last Ronin version of Raphael. So really not much else left. Like I said, his pants work really well. The wrappings look really good. I love the black wash in the wrappings to show more depth. The simple line work for the muscle details and stuff on both his arms and face look really good. The only thing I will say I don't like about this Leonardo is his more neutral expression with a simple line for his mouth. You can see it right there. It just looks a little funny seeing Leonardo in this badass looking armor, and then you just see him looking like he's just sick of someone's shit, and that simple just line across his face. I get it, he's supposed to be exhausted because this is how he looked like in the last Ronin before he unfortunately perished. But still, it looks kind of funny. So in my personal display, he's going to have the angry head on most, if not all, the time. Along with holding his swords, because you have to have Leonardo holding his katana. So let's go ahead and get into articulation. So there's a ball joint at the base, or at the top of his head that goes into his fixed neck. It's a double ball joint. So very easy to switch his heads on and off. You get a whole bunch of range in between his head. His arms go up to about there before it locks out because of the plastic being a whole sculpted body. His arms have double bend and a swivel at the bicep and a hinge at the wrist. All the wrists have the same thing. They just plug simply right on in. His torso has a little bit, but it's mostly because this piece is plugged into the legs. So you mostly get swivel and a little bit of forward and back. Not a ton, just because of how bulky and big everything is on Leonardo, because he is supposed to be armored up and prepared for war and everything else in between. His legs go forward to about there. You can rotate them, obviously, just to get a little bit more range. He's got a, it also a swivel, acts as a swivel. I swear I can talk today. A double bend at his legs that's very stiff, but definitely doable. That goes a little bit past 90. And then a hinge and swivel for his feet. So for dynamic posing, or diorama sets or whatever, or even stop motion stuff like I'm going to use this guy for, very good articulation altogether. Do I regret or wish that they had done anything different with this version of Leonardo? Really, the only thing I wish that they did a little bit different was more accessories. I wish they had given him more stuff, but I get it. He's not the official Last Ronin. This is just Leonardo, and it's supposed to be based off the issue where they show him die and everything else. He's not going to come with a whole bunch of stuff, because in that book, he didn't come with a whole bunch of stuff. So, I get it, but at the same time, I wish they had given him just a little bit more stuff and do a different facial expression for his more neutral expression. So, all in all, great figure. So glad to have him. Can't wait to finish the set of 4. Let's go ahead and move on to Leonardo again. I don't know what the next guy actually is, but we'll go ahead and move on. Okay, here are all the parts and pieces for Leonardo again, I guess. I don't know who this actually is supposed to be. The box literally just says 2 Scoops of Evil. And that is the name of this guy, is 2 Scoops of Evil. Leonardo is the only one that's really not on the box, aside from that shot right there. We'll get into that here in a little bit, and the pros and cons of this guy, because I've said my pros and cons later, or earlier, throughout the other characters, but minor nitpicks compared to what this guy has. Although this guy is still a badass, don't even get me started on that. So, let's go ahead and start off with his head. For starters, I like it. It looks good. It looks like a turtle wearing a bandana. Not much else you can really say about that. The paintwork looks really nice. This part is rotatable. And like I said, I'm assuming this is supposed to be like an evil version or a mind control version of Leonardo. I'm not sure. I don't remember him actually doing this in the 1987's Ninja Turtles series, which is what this is apparently based off of. But I could be misremembering. He could have very well looked like this. I don't remember. He also has an alternative head, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but we'll explain more on why I think they included this in a little bit later throughout this portion of the review. It does look fun. It does look good. It just looks also a little really silly because it's supposed to be a Ninja Turtle underneath a foot soldier mask. And it just looks very funny. We will, of course, try this out on the body later once we bring everything out here. Now, he does have what is supposed to be a mace. That's what this picture on here is representing this weapon to be. And he also comes with 2 swords, which is definitely telling me that this is supposed to be Leonardo, because who else comes with katanas aside from Leo? He does also come with a full array of hands, 2 relaxed-ish open palm hands, 2 gripping hands, and 2 closed fists. He does also come with this really cool, movable image thing. So if you look, you can actually make him look like he's wielding the little mace thing. So really cool. But it's, I don't know how to describe it. It's one of those really cool little things where you move it and obviously the image changes. But see that right there, those 2 things in the background, that's supposed to be this figure, obviously done in a 2D style animation, but one is wearing the Foot Ninja style head, and the other back here is wearing the bandana style head. So technically, if you wanted to get more of these guys and have different looks on display, and then obviously paint, certain sections of them to match their like a super or good guy counterparts, totally doable. That is most likely why they include this as head option as an option. Because, like I said, I don't remember this look ever being in the 87's TV series. I could be misremembering. It's been a while since I've watched it. But we'll also get into another thing here in a little bit. And that is, where's the spoon? Hold on, let me zoom out real quick. Where is the spoon on the box? The box clearly shows he has a spoon and a shell-shaped bowl. None of that is here. None of that's present. None of that's inside the box. On the box, actually, is kind of cheeky with having their battle shell or whatever you want to call it. That is a photo of the actual car that you can buy on Neca's website and whatnot. But no sign of that spoon or bowl anywhere. I get it's just box art, and box art is meant to be interpreted as one thing, but come on. Wouldn't it have been hilarious if they had given you a spoon and the bowl to make it look like he's dining on turtle soup or whatever he wants to, whatever you want to call it? And then this right up here, again, goes to prove my point that NECA wants you to buy multiple of these guys just so that way you can give the hooded versions of these heads to other turtles that you already have in your collection currently, as is evidenced by Raphael and Donatello in this photo right here. Oh, and I do love the read-up, the whole quit hitting yourself over and over and over and over and over again. If this look for Leonardo did show up in the 87 show, it would not surprise me if that was one of the lines that he said to his brothers as he was fighting them. And just the shot right there of Leonardo basically solo-handedly holding Michelangelo back as he's hilariously trying to swipe at him. Very funny. And then another shot of Leonardo versus Donatello on the edge right there as well. And I always think it's so funny that they say portable portal generator sold separately. Because idiots are going to look at this and be like, oh, look, that comes in a box. No, it does not. So, without further ado on that small little rant, let's go ahead and get, I'm assuming, Leonardo himself out here. Alright, here we have Leonardo standing straight up and down. No crazy poses, but he does have his swords in his back just to complete the look. This is cool. Like I said, I don't think this is based off of any particular episode from the 87's cartoon series. Again, I could be misremembering. If you guys know, please let me know which episode down in the comments, and I will make sure to go double check that so I'm more informed or better informed on this look for Leonardo. Like I said, it's been a while since I watched the show, but I know that Leonardo does have stuff like this happen to him in the comic books, where he will, work for Shredder for a little bit and then go back and help out his brothers and whatnot. That has happened so many times in the comic books, it's not even funny. So they could have easily have just been like, okay, well, let's do this story, comic book storyline, kind of make it our own, and then boom, go from there. That's pretty much what they did, from what I can tell. He is very, very 80s. Which, that's actually a good thing, because obviously this is based off an 80s show. But the, for lack of a better term, belt looks a little bit kinky, for lack of a better term. And those spikes are actually relatively pointy too. So if, trying to handle this guy, you're gonna get hurt at least once, especially on his legs, his gauntlets, or his shin leg or shin armor, whatever you want to call that. Those are actually really relatively prickly, so they don't hurt, but it's uncomfortable to mess with. And then a real metal chain that goes from one O-ring to the other O-ring on his back. And then Leonardo's got a brand on his shoulder. That is not sculpted, or that is not painted. That is actually sculpted. You can feel that foot soldier logo, like, sculpted into his shoulder. Ouch, for a lack of a better term. And then this armor piece does get in the way of articulation. You'll see that here in a little bit. His arms, once again, have a really nice wrapping on his arms, legs, and feet as well. And then he also has a eyeball laser. That is probably the most 80s thing I've ever heard of for a Ninja Turtles line. This piece is technically removable. It's not really supposed to be, but it can if you wanted to. And it is literally a laser cannon eyeball. Okay then. So, yeah. This is actually a really cool look for Leonardo. If he does show up in any videos, he is not going to be portrayed as Leonardo, if that makes sense. He's going to be portrayed as a completely different character from the original 4 Turtles. He's going to be something else. Because this look is so fun and so crazy and wacky and out there that I do want to use this guy at some point later down the line for future videos. But he would not be Leonardo like I'm assuming he's supposed to be. At that point, he would be either a genetic clone or, you know, whatever the case may be. He would not be Leonardo, though, because this look for me just it's too fun not to use, but at the same time, it's too weird and crazy to call it Leonardo, especially since most of the time, Leonardo looks just like this in videos anyway. So it'd be really weird to have Leonardo look like this, and then for one video he looks like this. It just too much clashing going on there. So genetic clone, whatever, future different dimension, whatever works for me. Full on Leonardo, not gonna ever happen. Even in the connected universe, if I do this storyline where Leonardo does temporarily go bad, I would not use this figure as a stand-in for Leonardo because he would look drastically different. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, he looks really cool. Those spikes on his outfit and whatnot, all of them are actually relatively pointy and actually not sharp, but very fine-pointed, I should say. These are a lot more flimsy, which is good because that means they hopefully will not break off. His shin armor and stuff is all nice and spiky and whatnot. So, like I said, he can he can get into poses, but that shoulder on his right arm is going to get in the way. So on that, you go up pretty much to about there before he starts getting in the way. But if you rotate the bicep, you can get a really fun eyeball laser pose. This is probably how he's going to be posed in my collection or display case or whatever I'm going to put this guy in. And then holding one sword in his other hand, just like that. That's probably how I'm going to have this guy displayed. As much as I love this head, in terms of how cool it is and how weird it is, it's going to go back in the box. So maybe someday or sometimes I'll have it on there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just see what that looks like in general. Oh my god. This is weird looking, for a lack of a better term. I don't hate this, but I do hate this. This looks so weird and so awful that I can't take it seriously. You know, like the bandana and the glaring expression does so much heavy lifting for an otherwise steampunk style looking Ninja Turtle character that I can't take the masked look seriously. You know, I get it. It's supposed to be a Ninja Turtle dressed up as a foot soldier, but I can't take that seriously. The purple, the foot ninja logo on the top of the head, the 3 lines mimicking fabric movement, the chunky fabric looking sculpted piece around his neck, and everything else to show that it's a fabric mask. It looks so off-putting. The eyes look cool though, but it looks so weird compared to what this head sculpt looks like. I much prefer this one over this, but I mean, it's there if you want it. And technically, this is actually supposed to go on other turtles, not specifically this particular one. It's there if you want it. Not for me though. That is definitely going into a parts bin or back into its standard box. Oh, thank God, we're back to stock. I'm sorry. If you guys like this head, let me know down in the comments. It's just not for me. It's too silly. It's too goofy, which it fits perfectly for these version of the Turtles because that show was goofy and was crazy and funny. It's too silly for me. This I would take over that head any day of the week. So let's go ahead and wrap up today's video and get everything done. Alright, that's basically it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will catch you guys all next time in Ultimate Deadpool. Peace out. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys all later. Bye.